Well, hello there, my studio teacher friends. Welcome to episode 219 of the Beyond Measure podcast. Christina Whitlock here, your self-appointed anytime piano teacher friend. Today is a most exciting day because it is the kickoff of our 2025 Summertime Conversation Series. Most of the time, I hold down the fort here all by myself, but this summer I am inviting some of my very favorite piano teacher friends to join me for conversations I know you are going to love. Each episode features, obviously, this podcast, but also a bonus conversation available in the Patreon community. So if you're looking for candid conversations with each one of our Summertime Conversation Series guests, I welcome you to go check out the Super Friends community at christinawhitlock.com/community. Today's special guest is none other than Leila Viss. Leila has been creating content for piano teachers for a good while, and she has made countless valuable contributions to our profession. We had a great conversation that started with curiosity and somehow ended with perfectionism and made a million unexpected stops in between. Something you should know about Leila and I is the fact that we are both presenting this summer at Nicola Canton's online conference, Teacher Turbo Boost. If you are interested in saving $10 off of your registration fee, making it just $85, please be sure to check out the link in today's show notes. All right, friends, without further delay, let's get on with the show. I bring you my conversation with Leila Viss. Welcome, Leila Viss, to Beyond Measure. I am so excited to have you here today and talk curiosity with you.
Well, I'm beyond happy to be here.
Nice play on words. So I think it's safe to say that you and I both view curiosity as kind of a cornerstone of good teaching. I feel like we have that in common. And I have all kinds of different directions I thought about taking this conversation. But before I get too carried away, is there anything that you would like to say more generalized about curiosity, or how curiosity plays a role in the teacher life?
Well, let me just plug you a minute, because I think I was listening. No, I know I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you were talking about your core values. Mm-hmm. And is curiosity one of yours as well?
It is. It is one of my 5. Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking I wanted 3. Mm-hmm. And I really liked your curiosity. And so I ended up choosing 3, which are curiosity, cultivate, and connection. So I think we share some. Is that true?
That's true. Okay. So mine are authenticity, connection, humility, curiosity, and play. I should have known that you would have alliteration and you would have your nice 3 neat C's.
Well, I have to give you credit for inspiring me. And I always was going to reach out and tell you that. But you know, when you're on the walk and then you get home and then you forget.
I really appreciate that compliment about your core values. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
But I was recently reading your book, Sound in the Wake, and we'll talk, I'm sure, more about your story later today. But this is a story of the great tragedy that you guys endured in these last several years with your son, Carter. And I was already pretty aware of the story. I followed you pretty closely, and you were so generous with your words while you guys were walking that path. And I know it was a form of self-expression for you and processing for you to journal about it. And we all got to tag along for the ride. But as I was reading the book, I got so fascinated by some of the smaller details that you would include. And I found myself just really like eating up every morsel that I could. Like things like you were talking about Carter as a child and his Beanie Baby collection and these elaborate stagings they would put on through the house and how he would collect grasshoppers. And I mean, you just are so good at including all these little nuggets that are part of your story, but I don't think they would occur to everyone to include in the story that you were telling. And so I kept finding myself, maybe because I'm a writer at heart too, but I kept thinking, oh, I just love that she put that in there. And then it dawned on me, I was like, maybe it's piano teacher brain. It's the curiosity that drives us, that we know that we care about details and we know to look for details and to try to draw connections through various parts of our lives. And I thought, oh, no wonder. Do you feel like that played a part in your writing of this book at all?
Well, of course. No, I mean, I'm thinking, yes, you're right. But I hadn't thought about it before. How's that?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And
for sure.
I think I wanted that chapter in the book because I remember an evening specifically where I thought of my little baby and how that baby will never be the same anymore. And I think I wanted to portray that to people in this book is your children, you imagine them being whole their entire lives, and then something will happen. Yeah. And so I wanted to tell that story of treasuring the three boys and creating a Beanie Baby hive on the stairs and, just crazy things. Yeah. And yet it also did reflect Carter's love for animals too.
So just in case listeners aren't familiar, Leila, can you give us just the quick version of the Carter story, and then we can all go grab your book and read the more in-depth version because it's amazing.
Thank you. Well, we have three grown sons, and our middle son lives in Florida and was snorkeling off the coast of South Florida, and he was struck by a boat. And unfortunately, he lost his right arm and almost both legs and almost his left arm, the one that remained. And spoiler alert, he's doing very, very well now. Yeah. And he plays piano like nobody's business with his left hand. So his left hand healed completely. Yeah. And our family went through a very long, dark tunnel watching him heal. And that's what Found in the Wake is all about.
Yeah. It's incredible. I feel like you've been so generous to let us follow along all these years, and we appreciate you sharing it with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking, and thank you for letting me share and for reading the book. I guess back to your question of adding in all those details. I feel like that's a really interesting question. Is that a piano teacher brain? And perhaps it is because we meet new people every time. Someone new is sitting on our bench. Well, hopefully they'll stay for years and years, but you have to get to know them and their brain and how they work. And so you have to be curious. You can't make assumptions.
Exactly. Because I always feel like there's this portrayal of children as very curious beings, which of course they are to some extent. But when I think about my childhood, like that's pretty low on the list of ways I would describe myself. And what's funny is I was I was involved in all of the like artsy creative activities. And yet I don't consider myself now in hindsight to have been that creative because I was following the strict classical piano route, which we all know is not necessarily the most creative endeavor there is, and I did a lot of theater and a lot of those kinds of things, but I think I have been a very rules and process oriented person for a lot of my life. And maybe that's why curiosity ended up on my list of core beliefs for this work that I do, because I think it's so important. And I think I was missing it for a large part of my life. And so I'm so thankful now to have kind of reclaimed that sense of curiosity and to understand that that is the heart of working with people, AKA piano teaching, is to get curious about your students.
I don't remember teachers asking me to get curious about things either. We were following the rules, reading the next page in the textbook, doing what we needed to do to get that A on the test. I was one of those students, and it never dawned on me to, you know, put a Minto in a Diet Coke bottle and see what happens.
Yes.
That's what those other kids did, but I wasn't going to do that, you know?
Absolutely. Well, you'll love this. I remember being in grad school, and I mean, I had not had my big creative piano awakening yet while I was in grad school either. And my pedagogy professor, Lori Roden, she said, well, you guys know when you were young and you were playing in church and you would just improvise your offertory, you know, and I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, shouldn't you used to do that? And I was like, no, I bought every arrangement of every hymn known to man, and I cycled through those for my church job. And I was like, never once did it occur to me to improvise on a hymn straight from the hymnal. And even, you know, in further reflection, that same course, I thought, boy, I never sat down and just tried to sound something out. If I wanted music for something, I'd go to my parents and I'd say, hey, I need you to buy me the music for whatever. And they would do it. And to me, as someone who, again, kind of identified as a creative person, I started to realize, wow, like I was pretty lacking in the innovation department. And so I think that just really rattled me a little bit in my probably early 20s. And I thought, okay, this needs investigating. So here we go.
Well, I like how you caught that. I didn't even really catch that until much later in life. But were you ever encouraged to take what you heard on the radio and play it on the piano?
Never.
It never dawned on me. Toto is my band.
Uh-huh.
And why would I never take any of that to the piano? There's plenty of piano going on in there. But yeah, I think it's the way our educational system was. And those of us who followed along and did what we were told and got A's, we did just fine. But yes, our curiosity was tamped down. It wasn't explored. And so, yeah, maybe you and I are both having a reawakening.
That's it. Let's continue, right?
Yes.
Like, I just hope it just keeps getting more and more. But I mean, it was that way for me, even just learning to play chords. I mean, I was into my master's degree before I finally decided to start taking gigs that used chords, which is so laughable now. And I just look back, and part of me just hurts for my younger self, because I know there were situations. I'll give you a good one. So my dad was a very different kind of musician than I was, and he ran sound and played guitar in a lot of these, like what I call old man bands. So they rehearsed at our house, and it was this constant stream of colorful characters in and out of my house growing up. And every now and then they'd be like, oh, you need to come sit in, play keys with us. And they would all sit outside my practice room and listen to me play my Mozart and that kind of thing. And they were like, hey, come jam with us. And I was I had no idea what to do. I didn't know what those were about. And I felt so out of my element. And now, you know, my dad's no longer with us, and I'm older and wiser. And I just think, wow, I could have sat and jammed with my dad. And I completely missed that. And his whole time on this earth, I thought we were just in completely different places as musicians. And he felt the same way. He thought, you know, she doesn't relate to me and I don't relate to him. And, you know, what a missed opportunity. I wish I would have known how to play my instrument back then instead of just follow the checklist, you know?
I love that word play, because yes. And my guess is now your goal for your students is to make sure that your students have both your skills and dad's skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell them, if you encounter a piano in the wild, what are you going to do?
I love that. Oh, and that's why I'm so adamant that my students know the heart and soul pattern.
Exactly.
Because I had one student early on that came back from camp and said they were all playing this chord progression. And I was embarrassed because, wait a minute, you need to know that. That is legit stuff. And yeah, so we're definitely on the same page there. It's too bad that you and your dad never connected. Can you imagine the skills that you would have now if you had the Mozart skills along with daddy's skills? Wow.
I know. Yeah. I mean, hindsight, what can you do? But yeah, I think that's one of the things, when I work with teachers, Because of course you and I are not alone in this. So many of our colleagues grew up feeling the exact same way. And, we know in our profession, I think we are in a season of this awakening. I mean, people like you have been touting this, this way for a while now, and you've done so much for the profession and helping us to kind of advance things. And I always think, the more I work with teachers, the more I find teachers who just want the right answer or the solution or the process. We're all looking for the method book or the materials that we need to use. And I just want to shout from the rooftops that there is no one system. There is no catch-all, no be-all, end-all. Like, we have to stop looking for it, and we just have to get curious about the student in front of us. What's going to light them up? What's going to connect? And, it's not one thing, but it's amassing a whole toolkit of ways that you can connect with your student and these concepts. Do you agree?
Oh, yes. In fact, let me give you two definitions. There's two types of curiosity. Did you know that?
Oh, no. Enlighten me.
Okay. There is a deprivation curiosity. Okay. Oh. And that's when we learn because we are worried that we're missing out and we don't know something. There's a lack of information. And so we learn because we have to. And that's probably, I think, how you and I probably grew up.
Yes.
Okay, I got to learn this because someone else knows this and I need to learn it too.
Yes.
Okay. And then there's the interested curiosity. And that is all about we want to learn. It's not we're worried, but we want to learn. Yeah. And I think that is where we need to fall or lean to. Curiosity is a fine balance of fascination and fear. And because we are perfectionists, because that's what we all are in the music world, but what we need to realize is that perfectionism is causing this fear. And so we stay on that deprivation type of curiosity instead of the interested. So as much as possible, we have to let go of that perfectionism. I call myself a recovering classical pianist, but also a recovering perfectionist. I am really trying hard not to count my mistakes. I still do, but I'm trying not to. But the definition of perfectionism, I have two of them. One is when expectations don't match up with reality. And the other one is fear of failure.
Yeah. Sure.
And so when you were talking about, well, teachers want the right answer, it's because they're fearful of failing, because if they don't have the right answer, and they're always assuming that somebody else must have the right answer.
Yes.
Because it's always, the grass is always greener, right? Until you get there and then, oh, it's the same shade as it was over here.
Exactly. I do. There's that inadequacy fear that we have that we're like, oh, everybody else knows this and I don't. But that's not true. That's not true.
So after writing this book, I have two mantras. I couldn't nail it down to just one. Maybe I need three.
Let's do three.
Yes, but we'll do two for right now. One is to take courage. And I think that is part of being curious, is being willing to step out and choose courage over, just staying in our comfort zone. Wow. And then the other one is genuine over perfect.
Yes.
And I think both of those, if we can display those in our lives to our students, I do think they will hang around longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I've been on this rampage this year in my studio because I have so many perfectionist students, as we all do, and we all kind of wring our hands and don't know what to do with them. And I always think it's like cosmic payback for all the torture I put my parents and teachers through of how hard I was on myself. And now it's like, okay, now I'm on the other side perpetually seeing these brilliant kids that I just adore and all the things they can do, and they can't appreciate it yet, right? Because they're so focused on, oh, I did this one thing wrong. And I literally was just telling this to a student this morning, but when you perform, we all know you can play a note perfect, quote, performance, and it falls completely flat because it doesn't say anything. But the true measure of a successful performance is going to be, what did you help your audience feel, or what did you communicate? What did you express? And nowhere in that definition was every note perfect, you know? And I just have been on this tirade all year. But
I have a
maybe
quote
there's
about this
oh, really?
from my choir director. He's
Oh.
got a PhD in choral conducting. He's brilliant. I love watching him lead our choir.
Mhm.
And he says this a number of times, and it's from his mentor. We work in an art form that constantly demands perfection while simultaneously denying its existence.
Uh, yep, that's it, isn't it?
But we are all tortured souls. I really,
We
we should
are.
just go home now because we're never going to fix it. Because, our adult students, they want to come and play piano and they want to sound just like what they heard on the radio,
Mhm.
on Spotify.
Yep.
Of course, they don't realize that so many things have been touched up, but they just assume that that's what it's going to be like when you play the piano and
Yeah.
or any instrument. And it's just not. In fact, I had an adult piano student who was an amazing knitter. We'll talk. She elevated the art of knitting to
Really?
degrees I had never seen before. And
Wow.
what would happen is if she, was knitting something and made a mistake, she would unravel it all and do it again.
Oh my goodness.
And it turned out that she couldn't handle playing piano because she couldn't undo that mistake.
Yep. Hmm. It's really tough, isn't it? And your heart kind of breaks, right? Because we live in this era of polished presentation, right? And we see the things that we think other teachers are doing in their studios and other ways that people are crafting their music. But you're right, so little of what we experience in our lives is not touched up in some form. And so there goes there goes the human qualities.
I know. I know.
Oh, that's tough, Leila.
It is. So here are some symptoms of perfectionism. Would you like to
Oh,
hear them?
tell me.
I
Tell
know,
me.
because I, what's interesting is I've experienced some comments from different people
Mhm.
or someone talking to someone else. And now I'm thinking, oh, that's their perfectionism speaking. Okay.
Yes.
So here are some of those qualities: an all or nothing. Like it has
Hmm.
to be good or nothing. Okay.
Yep.
Critical versus self-compassion,
Mm-hmm.
comparison, always comparing yourself to someone else,
Always.
and demanding A plus only work.
Yeah.
And then this is a big one too, defensiveness.
Yes. I think you just described me, Leila.
I know. That's why I wrote them down because like, okay, she's gonna like these because yeah, I could check all those boxes. Yep.
I can check all of those boxes. Isn't that funny? Yeah. And yeah, with the defensiveness, just the, how hard it is to open yourself up for critique. Like that's something I always felt in my advanced studies where I was just so reluctant to put myself in a position to get that feedback that I needed and I wanted, but I don't know, it's not for the weak. So,
It's not. And then look at our students. Every day they come to a lesson, they're in the hot seat
yeah,
getting feedback.
yeah,
And so, we have to be careful how we deliver that then too. That's a whole nother subject that you and I could get on to.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
call
it's
it
true.
feedback. I call it feed forward.
Ooh, feed forward. Ooh,
I
that's
know.
good.
I know. That's a whole nother thing. But
Yeah.
what I think is because we're curious now, we can also be more self-aware.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
if we think of those symptoms of perfectionism, oh, is that my perfectionism talking? Oh,
Mm.
it certainly is. And even if we can't stop it at the moment, at least being aware of, oh, okay, yeah, that's me. Then we can forgive ourselves and move forward.
That's right.
But that
That's right.
curiosity really is perhaps one of the best things that we can use as
Hmm.
we move forward in life.
Yeah. And that it's okay to not know something, right? That's the other part of curiosity is that, it's okay to not be so certain. I think we live in a time where certainty is praised and it really needs to be questioned because there are so few things that we can be certain about. And so to get curious is really to embrace the fact that the answer may not be as clear as you want it to be. And that goes to student feedback, it goes to our own pedagogical training, all the things, right?
Well, and in life too, because I've learned a lot
You have.
from this accident that happened in our family. And I just said this the other day is the one thing we can be certain of is uncertainty.
It's true. It's true.
And if we think we have things in control, just you wait and see. We all crave control.
Yeah.
And then what happens is we get filled up with decision fatigue because we want all this control. So yes, that's my little, one of my little platforms.
So I feel like I can't have Leila Viss sitting here without picking your brain a little bit, because you have created just such an impressive number of resources for teachers over your career. And it doesn't seem like you're stopping anytime soon. It seems like your idea brain is still fully rolling. So do you think you could give us a few of your favorite resources that you've made for teachers that would help us with this curiosity puzzle?
Well, thank you. I know. I keep thinking I'm going to get off this bandwagon, and then I just keep going.
Nah.
I kind of feel like I'll be Forrest Gump. This is the same way I was with the podcast, right? I kept running. All of a sudden, I'm done. And then it felt so good. So I have not come to that point.
It felt good for you. We miss it. I'm just saying.
Okay. Oh, you're sweet. You're sweet. But yes, I continue on the resource conveyor belt, and I'm enjoying every second of it. Probably the biggest thing last year was I created a jumpstart every month. And that was a big challenge for myself. This year, I've tweaked it a little bit because it almost put me over the edge. But a jumpstart is basically some kind of thematic unit that inspires creativity. And it's not just play around with this for a little bit and then say goodbye to it. I want it to be something that could lead into a composition, because a lot of students and teachers want to compose. Okay, where do you start when there's 88 keys? Well, okay, what if you start here, and then those units will take them to a destination, maybe making a piece in minor that's quirky or creepy, or creating a very free improvisation that sounds like a butterfly in Lydian mode, So this year I bundled all of last year's, and I'm bringing out new ones in something called Space to Create. So I have, it's a membership, and there's 3 tiers. And the first tier is my full scoop on chords, which is a digital course all about chords, from 5-finger patterns leading up to 7th chords. I even have figured bass in there, which that almost makes me want to throw up, because I'm thinking, who uses that? However, it's still on all those theory tests that students take, right?
It is. And it's the original chord chart, right? And I love showing my students that, you think this is all new, but it's not new.
Yeah. I also include Nashville numbers, though, because
great. Yes.
Someday my students will be in Nashville playing with a band, and they will need to know those numbers.
That's exactly
And they make
true.
so much more sense than Roman numerals. I don't know about you, but I feel like I am teaching my students Roman numerals. They're not learning them in school anymore.
That's true.
So anyway, so that's my first tier. The second tier then includes that same course along with my jump starts. And you just never know what Leila's going to come up with. And then my third tier includes all of that plus composiums. Nice. So those I started a couple of years ago, and then I had repeat customers. And so they wanted to come back again. So then I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice that, hey, they can just reserve their spot. Every composium I have, hey, you want to join me? Here you go.
Nice.
So that is a great space for teachers in particular, but I do have pianists as well that come in and want to get creative, and they compose, and then we look at each other's work in Note Flight. And this is where the feed forward comes, because I lay down some very clear language on how we're going to speak to each other about our creativity, all those kind of things.
That's gold.
That's my long answer to what I've been up to, but it's taken quite a while, and I had to come to terms with a couple of things. One of them being just marketing this new thing. All the things. So it's been fun, and I'm feeling more confident with where it's going.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I will say I have eyeballed the Composiums many times over. I always, I'm stuck in that mom world of how much time can I allot for myself right now. But I love that you do that, and just the freedom that you've given to teachers to say, hey, this is something I don't feel great at, but I would like to get better. Because we all know how hard that is to admit, even though that's what our students come in and feel every day, like you said. So I love that you're making space to create.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
And that you are doing that in that manner for so many teachers. And I hope to be on the bandwagon one of these days.
Oh, it'd be so much fun to have you. It is. And it's such a neat journey to see where everyone starts and where they end.
Okay. So you and I are both presenting at Nicola Canton's Teacher Turbo Boost later this month. I'm really excited about that lineup. I think she scored a great set of speakers, including us. Yay!
Very fun.
I'm just curious if you could give us a little sneak peek into what you're talking about for the Teacher Turbo Boost event.
I'm so glad you asked, because it runs along the lines of our conversation today.
Well, how timely.
I know. It's called Break the Mold. And pretty much what I'm talking about is the fact that we tend to teach method books. But no. We teach humans.
Yes.
And so we run on a conveyor belt of method books, and then we wonder why our students are leaving after year 2 or 3. Well, perhaps we're not serving them the Starbucks coffee order that they were ordering to begin with. And so that's the gist of what I'm talking about. And how do you go about doing that? How do you break the mold?
Yeah. Oh, that's a real song of my heart too. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said.
And what do we get to hear you talk about?
I am talking about social media sanity for teachers. So everything on, I'm trying. So everything on this Turbo Boost conference is geared towards this up and coming generation of students. And I think there's a lot of pressure on teachers to utilize social media, because that's, quote, where the students are, right? And so therefore we should be there too. And I have some questions about that philosophy and just in general, our use of social media and what is for good and what is for not, and how to keep our heads about it all and still do our own good work in the world, which is what we really need to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'll be listening in. That sounds good.
Tell everyone where we can find you online these days.
You can find me at leilaviss.com. I'm right there, not going anywhere, staying put. And yes, thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, this is your exit exam now. Are you ready? I need to know, Leila Viss, something you love beyond measure. No serious answers allowed.
This was really hard. Okay. And then I thought, well, I'm going to go with, let's add today to the end of that question. Okay.
Okay. What do you love beyond measure today?
Today would be my husband's salmon.
Oh, yeah.
He cooks salmon like nobody else. And we were just talking about this because we have it once a week and I don't order it anywhere else because he can only make it the way I love it. So
Gotcha.
There you go. That's my answer for today.
I love that. He's ruined you for all the others.
Yeah, he has, yes.
I'll tell you who else makes great salmon is Amy Chaplin, our friend over at Piano Pantry. I have had salmon prepared by Amy, and it's quite good too. So maybe she and Chuck should have a face-off.
Maybe. I think so. Okay, I would have to try her salmon. I'm sure it's good. No doubt.
So funny. All right, Leila, to close us out today, can you offer us up a quick toast to the profession?
Oh, yes. Here we go. Cheers to curiosity. May we choose fascination over fear.
Fascination. That's right. Fascination over fear for sure. Oh, thank you, Leila. This was so much fun. So we are going to wrap this up here, although you and I are going to have a bonus conversation over in the Patreon community. So we'll look forward to hearing more of your candid insights over there. So thanks so much for being here, Leila. We appreciate you so much and can't wait to see what's next from you.
Oh, thank you, Christina.